Why is everyone talking about 2016?
You remember the year 2016.
Apparently they're romanticizing being a teenager in 2016.
I ain't gonna lie, I was on TikTok and everybody kept saying 2026 is about to be the new 2016.
Damn, Daniel!
It seems ever since we've gotten into 2026, everyone has been feeling nostalgic for 2016. But why is this? What is the current obsession going on with this year right now? Was it the peak music that came out that year? Was it the memes? Was it the insane movement Pokémon Go had that even had grandma coming outside? You know, when I talk about 2016 with my friends, you know, it always goes back to the same conclusion, that 2016 was the last year where everything kind of felt good. And that seems to be the same sentiment online. So today I'm going to talk about what made 2016 feel special, if it was truly the last good year, and if we actually either miss 2016 or miss who we were in 2016. Also, peep the haircut, we looking good, we looking good! When I think back to 2016, one thing that sticks out to me was the summertime of 2016. So when I'm talking about this year, I have to start with the peak time of that year. And you know what was going on during that summer? Pokémon Go. I play Pokémon Go every day. In a time when social media was changing and keeping everyone chronically online more than ever, Pokémon Go was doing the opposite. It was actually getting people to come outside. Parks were full of people looking for Pokemon. You know, it didn't matter the time of day. It could be day or night. You know, people were going to places they've never been outside of their town or inside of their homes or wherever it was. People were looking for Pokemon everywhere. You know, you would go outside, walking around, and see people on their phone, and you'd be like, "You looking for Pokemon too?" And like, "Yeah, man, how'd you know?" And, you know, it'd be a nice new common way to meet people and find a way to bond over an interest, which seems very hard to do these days.
So if you're single, this is another reason to play this Pokemon Go. This app is better than Tinder. It's better than Match. It's better than whatever else is out there.
You know, I've also seen people online say that 2016 was a peak time for people in Los Angeles. And the 1 week that I was there, let me just say, yeah, it was pretty fun. It was a pretty cool place at the time. And you can't talk about Summer 16 without the music. 2016 was a year full of bangers from Drake's Views from the 6th album, Frank Ocean's Blonde, The Weeknd's Starboy, Fetty Wap, and you had this new generation of music coming on with the SoundCloud era. You know, the number of times that I was dancing to Drake's Hotline Bling, not knowing the context or the situation of the song and not really caring, you know, was a lot more than I like to admit. Now, I was a freshman in high school in 2016, so, you know, I wasn't really much of a rap guy. No, instead, I was more so listening to the, Little Einsteins remix. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship. Pretty sure that was more of a 2015 thing, but, you know, it's still very popular in 2026. 2016, Lord, I'm getting mixed up. We've already talked about one of the M's in 2016 in music, now we need to talk about another one, and that is the memes. As a person who was and still is chronically online, you know, 2016 was a legend, wait for it, dairy year for memes.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
Yeah, boy!
I'm David Pumpkins.
Now, you may have noticed I am missing a very important meme in that compilation that I just showed. And you're probably thinking, how could you talk about 2016 without talking about Harambe? Now, this meme actually felt a little more personal and closer to home to me, considering that the Cincinnati Zoo was around like a 30-minute drive for me at the time. And for how tragic the event of Harambe really was, you know, the whole internet kind of just took this thing and ran with it. And ever since the death of Harambe, you know, this is the point in our timeline where everyone goes back to and said his death was when everything changed, when everything started to go downhill. And if you're a Marvel fan and have kept up with the movies that have not been so great right now, besides Thunderbolts, they can never make me hate you, Thunderbolts. They talk about anchor beings and how they anchor their universe in that when one dies, that universe slowly fades away. So by that logic, maybe Harambe was our anchor being. And the only way to correct our universe is to somehow do a time heist like the Avengers, go back in time, make sure that kid doesn't fall into the gorilla pit, and we save Harambe. Guys, holy crap, I think I'm onto something!
This is a load of barnacles.
I really won't say this was a meme back in 2016, but does anyone remember the clown craze going on where people would like dress up in clown costumes and try to scare people? Thinking about it now, was that all really necessary? I mean, what were we really on in 2016? And the last M I want to talk about is media, not just social media. You know, I'm also talking about the movies, TV shows, videos, everything that was going on in pop culture at that time. There was a lot of good things going on in the media world in 2016. Social media wasn't performative and curated. Vine was up and running at the time. Pin Pineapple, Apple Pin came out, and overall, the internet didn't feel as polished as it was today. TV shows were also pretty peak. You know, you had the first season of Stranger Things. Wait a minute. The first season of Stranger Things came out in 2016? The Duffer Brothers really had 10 years to figure out the ending, and all they could come up with was a Power of Friendship ending? Man, who still believes in conformity gate, by the way? Game of Thrones was still good. You had Star Wars Rebels, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Flash, the last good season of The Walking Dead, in my opinion. There was also some great movies. Captain America Civil War, La La Land, Moana, The Nice Guys, Moonlight, Rogue One, Deadpool. Look, you know, I can go on and on about how many great movies came out in 2016, but, you know, this would be a 30-plus minute video, and I already feel like this is going to be one of my longer videos. And then you have sports. 2016 was a great year for sports. Unless you were a Bengals fan. This is a common theme, isn't it? Had the Golden State Warriors going 73-9 and then blowing a 3-1 lead to the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James in the finals. Kobe scoring 60 points in his final game, the Cubs winning the World Series, Peyton Manning going out on top and winning his second Super Bowl, and then you had the Villanova buzzer beater. Everything about this year felt special, from the movies, the memes, the influence in pop culture. And thinking about 2016 always brings me back to the thing I said earlier. It's the last year where everyone feels like it was the last good year and everything felt right. I think a lot of people have this view for 2016 for many reasons, you know, especially my generation. I think the reason we have this, you know, rose-tinted glasses view on 2016 is because we were all young back then, you know, we didn't have much responsibilities going on at the time, we didn't have to worry about many things, we were just simply existing and having a good time. Not only that, but speaking for myself, you know, we also weren't that aware of all the things going around us at the time as we are today. You know, when I was younger, the idea of falling behind never really crossed my mind. You know, there was no invisible clock ticking behind my head, and, you know, I simply just existed. You know, I was just there in my element. And to be honest, I was a kid who wasn't really motivated that much back then, you know. I was an okay student in high school, got like B's and C's, you know, a couple A's every once in a while. I wasn't really involved in any extracurriculars as well, and the only thing I would really do is, you know, after school I would go back home, you know, get ready to work at my local Wendy's, and then afterwards I would come back home and get on Team Fortress 2 and Ark Survival Evolved for the rest of the day. I thought it was pretty fun. And at the time, this was enough for me. You know, I didn't feel the pressure of, you know, of keeping up with my peers or keeping up with the general standards of today's society. You know, no, I was just chilling. Now all I can think about in my head is like, bro, we're falling behind. What are we doing? We gotta lock in. We gotta do something. And you know what else? Okay, hey, come on back. I'm sorry. Things aren't as bad as they seem. You know, I didn't mean to dump on you. You know, I'll figure something out. Okay? If you understood that reference, here's some brownie points. We remember 2016 as when things were simpler for us. We didn't have many responsibilities back then, didn't have any bills to pay, any of the real-world adult problems that we deal with every day in our lives. And this brings me back to the final point of the video, which is, do we really miss 2016, or do we miss who we were in 2016? Whether you were in middle school, high school, college, 2016 felt like a time where things were simpler back then. At some point you have to ask the obvious question, was 2016 really that good of a year, or did it just feel that way? Because when we take the rose-tinted glasses off and we wipe away the nostalgia, 2016 wasn't some perfect carefree era. There were a lot of bad things that also happened that year. There was constant tragedies in the news, political tension started ramping up in ways we hadn't really felt before, celebrities and cultural figures were passing away so often that people started joking about how cursed the year was. Even during 2016, people kind of were just like, yeah, this year sucks. I'll never forget the time, you know, coming home from school on the bus and finding out that Prince died through an iFunny meme. What a way to have the news broken to you. 2016 was chaotic. The news cycle started feeling heavier, arguments online started getting louder, and people became more divided and more vocal about their disagreements. It was the year where everything started becoming political. Social media began feeling tense instead of playful, outrage cycles started speeding up, and a lot of the stress we associate with today actually began back then. We just didn't recognize it. So why do we remember 2016 as this great, fun, nostalgic-filled, good, media-filled year? Because along all of that terrible stuff that was happening in 2016, there was still a lot of joy in that year as well. The internet knew how to still laugh at itself, nobody was getting canceled left and right, everything didn't feel as polished or as curated, and pop culture was pretty booming, no Metro. Music, movie, memes, and sports gave people a reason to connect with people, not argue, and you could still enjoy things without feeling pressured or overwhelmed. The truth is, nostalgia has the filter, it cuts off all the bad stuff, the stress, the anger, all the boredom that happened on that year, and, replaces it with the good stuff that you remember from that year. When we look back at 2016, we're not remembering the whole year. We're remembering the highlights, the parts that made us feel good, the parts that made us feel something. And that doesn't mean you're wrong for, wanting to remember it and reminisce on the good times. It just means you're human, and, you just thinking back to a time where things were much simpler. So was 2016 really a good year, and was it really the last good year before everything fell apart and went sicko mode? I'll leave that for you to decide. Although for me personally, 2017 and 2018 were pretty good. 2019 was kind of mid, and 2020,
before it gets
better. We don't talk about 2020.
Italy saw its deadliest day from the coronavirus as the death toll jumped by more than 600.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on 2016 and your experiences on 2016 and what you thought of the year at that time, I guess. So, yeah, man, that's all I have for y'all today, and until next time. Peace.